I'm Tracy Walker, and today I'm going to read a chapter of my book, The Cards I Was Dealt That Transformed My Life. And today's chapter will be chapter 8, Regaining Control of My Circumstances. Strangely enough, it was my mother who opened the door to my escape. I was defaulting to what I knew because it was all I knew. But Mum saw what was happening. Perhaps she saw herself. She couldn't help herself, but she could help me. Try this program, she said. It's a 12-step program for the friends and families of alcoholics. This was the turning point in my life. It was my first step towards changing my outcomes. A little old lady gave me a hug at my first meeting. Her arms wrapped around me, and I froze. I was extremely uncomfortable. I'd never had a hug from my parents. That wasn't something we did in our family. I didn't know what to do with this hug. I didn't know how to respond. What did she want? What was I supposed to do? How was I supposed to act? I didn't know. What I did know was that I wanted more. More of what I got that day. More love, more support, more anything. That's why I kept going back. Even though the whole concept was so foreign, it scared me. Even though I didn't know what I wanted or what I was looking for. I just knew I wanted to go back to the next meeting and the next and the next. I continued going back for over 30 years. The learning I received over the time was phenomenal. Every meeting, every story I heard, I could take away something that I could use in my situation. I told myself that if they could do it, so could I. I was like a sponge soaking up everything and then going home and putting it into practice. Over time, I grew stronger in myself, in my confidence, my self-esteem. The fog was starting to lift, and I was starting to see a promising future for myself and my children. The 12-step program was the official start of my transformation. For the first time ever, things were making sense. My childhood environment, the generational impact. Being with the group was like coming home to a family who knew exactly what I felt because they were living the same life. Different stories, but the same behaviours. Or in my words, same meat, different gravy. Once you took out the circumstances, the underlying issue was still the same. All of a sudden, I found myself having to address me, my low self-esteem, my poor opinion of myself. I'd played the victim for years, and now I needed to build myself up from the inside out. I had to throw out those masks I had been wearing as protection and get honest with myself. I had to stop expecting others to understand what I'd seen and experienced. My strength had to come from within. This was where I decided to stop fighting back. I didn't mean I'd given up. Quite the opposite. I'd just decided I needed to do things in a quiet way, without the screaming and the yelling. It's a story you hear so often after a violent outburst. He was always remorseful and the things would be better for a period of time. I believed him every time. He said he'd change, but there was so many things that set him off. If the meal wasn't what he wanted, he would end up on the ceiling. and he'd smash plates. At first I'd clean everything away, so when he'd sober up, it was like nothing had ever happened. Later I taught my children to walk around the broken things on the floor instead, so when he was sober he could see for himself what he'd done, and I didn't need to go on a rant with all the gory details. "Clean it up, please," I'd say calmly and softly. He started to see what he was like and eventually attended some AA meetings. But that didn't last long. Once he realised that I understood the 12-step program and could speak easily to other members, he didn't like that and accused me of having an affair with every one of them. Going to these meetings, something inside me changed as well. I'd started seeing him as a person to pity. It was like a light had been switched on. It put him off guard. I wasn't giving him the reaction he needed, and he struggled with that. I wasn't his doormat anymore. I didn't stop him cold, but it was okay because there was something new deep inside of me, a strength, an inner knowing. I felt supported. Through the 12-step program, I started to grow because I was in an environment that heard me, listened to me, and didn't judge me. The change didn't happen overnight. I was still living in fear of my partner finding out and accusing me of seeing someone else. I wouldn't stick around after the meeting for this reason, even though I knew he was at work and wouldn't be home for hours. His control over me was absolute. In my mind, I did not have the knowledge to fully change things. It wasn't that simple. For years, people had been telling me to leave him. Just walk out, they'd say. I always found excuses why I couldn't, why I shouldn't. Now, however things were different, I was different, and I had support. With that support, I learned to understand rather than condemn the alcoholic and the battle he and others in his situation go through. Doing this, letting go of the need to condemn, allowed me to focus on myself and work to break the cycle I'd been born into. I knew it wasn't going to be easy to change the habitual behaviours from my childhood. They were like a well-worn pair of shoes, so very comfortable. But I was ready. I was determined to move forward despite knowing it would be difficult at times. Before me were two choices. I could take the easy road, or I could pick myself up, dust myself off, and keep going every time I was knocked down. I chose the latter. I was determined to break the cycle, and I wanted more for my children. I'd wasted so much time, but now I was choosing to live in a more expansive mindset and achieve my potential. This was a turning point for the rest of my life. I didn't know what it was going to look like. I did know I was going to put one foot in front of the other. Whatever that was going to take me, I just had to trust that I would succeed. As I changed, my partner was unsettled because I wasn't behaving the way he was used to. He didn't have the power over me like he once did. I could see he was struggling to be attracted to me, and even eventually gave me the strength to ask him to leave my home for the second time. He became involved with the office secretary, She'd call me up and tell me I was a horrible person to not allow him to see his children, and that I should give him his share of his property. If I was her, I'd believed everything he said too. She only wanted to see what he told her because she loved him. This was the cycle of alcoholism. Sadly, she copped things a lot worse than I did. I'm grateful that I got out when I did. On reflection, I think of Mary Morrissey, and she tells a story about a baby elephant in India. And to train them, they put a strong rope around a baby elephant's leg and attach it to a big stake in the ground. The baby elephant pulls and tugs in an effort to free itself. However, the elephant eventually gives in. It succumbs to its situation. I was the baby elephant. I too gave in. I resigned myself to a situation. I followed the generational pull and continued to do what my mother did. I'm so grateful that I did attend a 12-step program, because over time I learned a different way from that pull and tug. There was an easier way forward, but it wasn't outside of me. It came from within. I was the one who had to change, not everyone around me. I didn't need to scream and yell hoping I'd be heard. I had a new way of doing things, and with it, the power to change my outcomes. Interestingly, people around me were concerned I'd joined a cult. They started questioning me every time I moved. "Are you going out?" they'd say. "Where are you going?" Rather than getting upset or frustrated, I learned that I didn't have to explain myself every time I did something different or something others were uncomfortable with. Life became about me. Trying new things was scary, but also exciting. I had choices. You too deserve to respect yourself. What is a little step you could take to ensure you have control over your life? You can start small. What is one thing you could do differently this week? What about next week and the week after that? You don't need to change the world. It is enough to join a new group, study something new, simply park somewhere different when you go to the shopping centre. The important thing is that it's your choice. And here's a quote from Sean Higgins. "Every day the clock resets. Your wins don't matter. Your failures don't matter. Don't stress on what was. Fight for what could be."